Yes, it's visible, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm Layla Ford, as I briefly mentioned, and I'm the founder of Vantage, which is a cognitive performance tracking app to help athletes optimize their physical performance on the court or just in their general fitness by focusing on their mental performance and their mental and cognitive readiness. So, a little bit about me. I'm born and raised in Austin, Texas, and I'm going to be a senior this year in high school. So, I'm really excited about that. And just for the longest time, I've taken a huge interest up on sports and anything related to neuroscience. So, anything related to the brain, psychology, is just fascinating to me. So, I try to do things in those areas. And with sports, I myself am an athlete, so I do play 5 competitive sports, and I'm actually the founder of another sports related app, Matchly, which is an AI powered matchmaking app that connects brands and athletes to facilitate NIL deals. And I just received pre seed funding for that this spring. So I'm super excited about that. And for this program, I was part of AI Crew Stellar and Team Orion. So when I was thinking about issues that I face as an athlete or things that I see, just the same thing that kept coming up time and time again. That's when athletes are, we're training our bodies so much, we're spending so much time in the gym or hours practicing on the court, on the field, whatever. But we very rarely are focusing on training our brain. And this is a really big issue I found. Just, like as athletes, we're tracking our reps, our sleep data, our macronutrients, what we're consuming, but cognitive performance is rarely measured. And so all these things like reaction time and focus and mental fatigue aren't really given any attention to, and that leaves a big gap in how athletes can be performing and how their physical output is. And with this, coaches and stuff of these athletes, like they don't have a baseline too for where these athletes are at mentally. And oftentimes, you have to be proactive with these things, and in sports especially, you don't want to be reactive. So before coaches can even detect that there's a period of mental fatigue, it's often too late. And so when I was thinking more too about all these different avenues that I could go with in the sports, because I didn't want to, I wanted to stay somewhere in sports and neurology. Um, and I was just thinking about, like, as myself as an athlete, how, like, this is something that I really face a lot. Because it doesn't matter how often I'm training or if I'm, putting hours in the gym every single day. If I'm not mentally there, it's not going to show up, on the court. Like my physical training, you're not going to see it, because there's just that big performance drop. And that's what I found the research suggested too, as I dug more into this. So there is like a 30% performance drop in athletic performance that's attributed to these mental factors, like mental fatigue and decision making pressures. And then with this too, there's a big blind spot in recovery. And when like coaches are noticing these things, so there's an average of like 72 hours before these coaches actually notice mental fatigue in their athletes, and by that time it's way too late. And I was looking for solutions too for myself, even that I could use, but I just couldn't really find anything that was focusing on the cognitive aspect of things, because there's a lot of physical health trackers, like Apple Watch, or all those things, which are good, but most of them aren't really focusing on the cognitive aspect of things. So I wanted to target that, and that's why I created Vantage. And Vantage is a daily cognitive performance tracker for athletes. So in just under 3 minutes, athletes will be able to get a series of recommendations surrounding their physical training, their nutritional recommendations and needs for that day, and then also recommendations on how they can train their brain and improve their mental performance. And all of these things are not just based off this physical data like sleep, steps count, like, your training, but they're based on, cognitive factors, like how many hours you studied, like if you're an athlete, like how many hours you studied the day before, or if you're working and stuff, how many days, like hours have you worked that day. And just these things that play a much larger role than we realize in our physical performance. And it's a very simple system, so it's just a really quick check-in, and then it'll give you a personalized plan for that day, with nutrition, physical training, and your brain. And then over time you'll be able to track your progress and your trends in your cognitive performance. So I can show you how it works now, and I think I'm gonna have to open this in a different tab. But you can sign in with Google too. So we enabled Google authentication. But so it'll give you a quick daily check in. So for me, these are like the few factors that it is. Because right now, health data isn't, we don't have that integrated into the app, like with through these wearables like Apple Watch yet. So this is how all of our recommendations are inputted. So, like for me today, like, I don't feel very stressed. It's been very like slow, good Sunday. And I don't really feel like very like mentally fatigued. Yesterday I studied a couple hours for psychology. I'm in a really good mood though, and I feel like semi-recovered. I didn't work out this morning, but I feel good. So there's my check-in. And basically it'll give me a cognitive readiness score. And this is based off all these cognitive factors too. It's saying here's how mentally ready you are to go about your day. So again, it'll tell you my mental fatigue is low, my recovery is, middle, and it's saying, okay, my mental work capacity, balance that, it's like a moderate load for, because I was studying a few hours, things like that, and, moderate recovery too. So maybe don't like totally max out. Um, but then it'll give me recommendations too on what I can eat today to like help these things that I'm trying to focus on. And then you can go here to the analytics page, and right now there's not a ton of data because you kind of need a 2-week baseline for a lot of these things. So that's why right now all there is really reaction time and stuff from a couple reaction games. But over time you'll be able to track more things like recovery, your mental workload, and just your progress using the app and how you've been performing with it. And then you'll be able to go here, which is like an area for brain games, kind of to help you train your brain. Because, again, we train, our bodies a lot, but this is more focused on your brain. So it'll give you a recommendation of what you can do for like right now, and it'll also give you like kind of like a weekly quote unquote training plan. So this one is saying, okay, do reaction time. And it's a very simple game, but it's just testing your reaction time. And then, oops, I tapped it too soon, which is, that'll help you like be aware of your like impulsive like decisions, and like self-control for things like that. And then there's some other games. There's like breathing for like meditations to help reduce your stress response. And also with the recommendations, these are based on like some goals that you select during the onboarding process, which I will get to in a second. Um, and then there's a AI coach basically that's like a built-in, like you're a training buddy. So let's say like I ran like 5 miles this morning. What should I eat to fuel up? Or yeah, and it'll basically like just give me recommendations on good things that I could eat to focus on like for recovering for my body. And then you can ask it questions too about like, hey, like I have a test or something later today. What food should I eat to like really improve my focus and increase my concentration? And it has all your recommendations here too that were on the first page. And then finally, really quickly with like the profile and everything, in the onboarding process, you can have like put in like your height, your weight, like how much you're training each day, how many days a week you're training, and then you can select goals for like mental goals and physical goals, because both are important and they really tie in together. And then also during this onboarding process, which obviously I already signed in, so it's not going to do it again for me, but you'll be able to input things like your job occupation, if you're in, because obviously some jobs are more stressful than others, or like if you're in school, how many hours a day you're working, like how many hours a week you're working, and just general things like that, or like what sports you're playing, or like what season you're in. So that is basically how the app works. um do I have stuff about impact in Outlook? Do you want me to go over them?
Was there an outlook? Like,
Sure. Yeah. So impact too, sorry. I mean, I think just like overall in general, if athletes are, using this app or they're just focusing more on enhancing their cognitive sharpness, then they'll see a dramatic output, increase in output in their performance, their recovery, and just their personal development in general. Because, Vantage is translating all these data into realistic and understandable decisions on the daily based on where those athletes are at that point in time. And, just looking into the future too, once we launch, I'd eventually like to incorporate a dashboard for like for coaches and teams, so coaches can see rosters of all their athletes, so they can see how their team is mentally, because that plays a big role in how they are going to be practicing and how ready they are to train that day. And then from there, we'd like to incorporate the wearable integration, like I was talking about with, Apple Watch, Aura, Whoop, Strava, Garmin, all of those physical trackers, because they do still play a role. But we just haven't been able to integrate those yet. And then finally, we'd love to eventually reach out, and collaborate with sports science programs, to, publish some cognitive performance benchmarks and really just spread awareness about how important it is, for athletes to focus on the cognitive side of things, and how big of an impact it has on your physical performance. And that's all. So I'd love to open the floor to any questions.
Okay, you can just stop presenting now. Let's
Perfect.
have the start. Uh, Okay, I'm pretty impressed with like whatever the product that you've come up with. I can see that you are really inclined towards sports and cognitive science, and together you've just come up with a very unique idea. To be very honest,
Thank you.
I was curious, like what all are the five you mentioned, right? You play some competitive sports, right? What
Yes.
are they? Which ones?
Yeah, I play basketball, lacrosse, flag football, and then I run cross country in the fall and track in the spring.
Okay, got it. And what does Matchly do? Like you mentioned, right? You got like a pre-seed funding round.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
so
the
it's
situation?
basically it's like kind of a similar like recommendation system app, but it's matching athletes with brands like sports brands or like any brand really like Nike, think like that, to facilitate NIL deals for name, image, and likeness, which is basically allowing athletes to get paid for their like physical performance. So whether it's like social media campaigns or like whatever, it's matching them. It's kind of like a dating app for brands and athletes, just to help underrepresented athletes get NIL deals.
Got it. That's pretty impressive for like for your age. You are actually doing a lot of things, and
Thank
this is
you.
really what like, you have like a working product already, and then you have prepared this one, which can again be like a very promising product because you have like four phases, different phases, right? How you're gonna
Mhm.
launch it, who is gonna use it, right? So that's really impressive.
Thank
Um,
you.
Also, feedback on the presentation part. It had like really good numbers, stats, how are you gonna help people. That's good. The UI is pretty simple to use. Also, there was this analytics section. Okay, yeah. Uh, how are you gonna like increase the kind of like analysis that a player gets out of like using this product?
I think like the biggest thing is just, once we do like incorporate the wearable data, that'll help like the analysis a lot more too, because, some of these things like, like Aura and Whoop, they can track like your stress like levels, whether you realize it or not. Um, but right now, obviously, it's like more things like based on mood, and like how like self-reported recovery and things like that. So I think over time, as like we can just like as we get more users and as people use the app more frequently, there's obviously more data for the model to use and to go off of. So I think like we'll just be able to train the model more from there, and like the analysis will increase through that.
Okay, got it. Uh, yeah. Okay. The best features what I felt were like the food recommendations one. Yeah. And after that, there were suggestions like how can you improve the training part of, like, what all things can I do to improve the training? That one
Mhm.
was there. And along with that, the game section, okay, the gamified version of it, because that will actually keep the players hooked to your app, right? So
Mhm.
that's good. And yeah, one more question, like, does the chatbot keep a history of, like, whatever a player has prompted or given a prompt or something like that a week ago? And according to that, does it give me today's recommendations?
Mhm. It's so I mean it's supposed to based on like what we have right now and stuff. It is supposed to have like a working memory, and it's supposed to store the data, and assuming that I mean it's only been functioning for like a week or so, obviously just because they built it during this program, so I can't like attest to how accurate like the memory retention is and with like those recommendations, but it's set up in a way to where like yes it would be able to like remember like yes from yesterday, like hey you did this, then like today let's take it a little lighter or you can go a little harder or stuff like that.
Okay, that's good. Maybe you can. Are you yourself using the app to track it, or?
I mean I'm just using it, like I've just been doing like the check-in every day, um
Mm.
and kind of looking at it. I mean, I like I kind of just do whatever I feel like for the day, I guess. But and right now with summer, I'm not feeling like super mentally stressed. Just because right now, like with school and everything, like since it's not started yet, I don't feel like I have as much use for it. But I do think like once school starts and like once I have like a lot more going on and like with all my sports like overlapping, I do think it would be very useful for like every day.
Okay. Yeah, that's where maybe when you are actually facing the issue, you and your friends can use it. Maybe you can take their suggestions, try to make it more user friendly, and maybe input those suggestions to modify or make some of the features much better, because from what I've seen, it already has a lot of features that are really helpful, and there's like only some features that you like have to improve on. Other than that, I feel it's really pretty impressive. And yeah, it was a really great presentation, and your pitching skills, that's really good. I can understand why you got the, like, the pre-seed round. Okay.